back. We're
What
back,
happened?
baby. Let me change the volume. I'm a little loud here. My bad. Because I have my lapel mic, so my volume is pretty loud, right?
Yeah, your volume. I feel that. I be forgetting about my mic being live right next to me.
Yeah.
You hear me?
I just lost you.
You lost me?
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Oh.
I was about to say, what's going on here?
Alright.
How was your weekend? Was it good?
Weekend was pretty good, man. Not too crazy. Same old stuff. Same routine.
Got my drink of choice today.
What you got there?
Got some lit. Beyond Raw.
Okay.
Clinically dosed. I'm gonna drink this now.
We're
So by
stuck.
the
I think we're switching. I just got black coffee like you, man. We might be switching
Look
places.
at you. Look at you. Got your black coffee. I'm proud of you. This one is
Very black, man.
This one's gummy worm flavor, so it's a little sour. Anyways, I want to roll a clip for us.
Let's get to it.
this. Let's get this show going.
How Sharpton.
Let's see what Chuck Schumer's up to, shall we?
For more federal funding for NYCHA, while President Biden's American Jobs Plan puts aside $40 billion for public housing, advocates and local leaders say that is not enough. Senator Chuck Schumer is calling on President Biden to double that amount to $80 billion.
That will be money to deal with NYCHA's backlog, but also make this housing resilient and make this housing able to meet the climate needs of the 21st century. Public housing has been neglected, left to get worse, and we're not going to stand for it anymore.
He says sub-problems public housing residents face are toxic mold, leaky roofs, and broken elevators.
So this was I just wanted to get your rapid reaction to Mr. Chucky over there getting he's been arguing now for billions of dollars because what is the funding deficit? They have to have $32 billion in repairs in the NYCHA units in New York City, and he wants to make this grandiose appearance like he's doing something about it. What is your response?
But it's crazy when you think about it. So the solution, we don't have enough money. We've messed up. Now we need more money. And there's no promise of doing anything different. It's just give us more money, Again, this is why you got to be wary of that's just comedy to me, man. This is give me more money again because we're on a big deficit off your money we used. It's crazy.
And he said it's being ignored. You've been in office, Mr. Schumer, for 30 plus years. If it's being ignored, you're part of the problem. You have been ignoring it. And I don't understand how this guy still continuously gets elected. That just boggles my mind.
Well, people are not looking deep to anything. They just vote. And a lot of people are not even involved in those kind of elections, senators and things like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What's up, y'all? This is Macho, That's Savory. And you know what time it is? It's time to watch Drinks with a Nobody. I got my beverage here. Savory's got his hot coffee. We're locked and we're loaded. Let's get this going. What do we got?
Let's get to this, man. By the way, quick overview for everybody. We're doing our Sharpton political agitators, and talking about what you've done and what you haven't done, lack of or abundance of, if you've done anything kind of conversation today. But let's challenge the people we talk about, man. So let's get to this.
Ooh, who we got here?
So this is interesting here. Let's just play.
We got,
let's just play. That's Beyonce's died, by the way.
Well, I mean,
I had no idea that came from her parents. I thought she was influenced by that radical husband of hers.
No.
But this whole idea of black power is evil. It's an evil idea because there's no such thing as black power. Black people can live as people just like normal people if they want to work hard and have a lot of money and live in certain places. And if they want to support other black businesses or white business or whatever, it's best to go that route, because when you go radical like that and promote all this black power and Black Lives Matter and all that crap, all you do is divide the races, just as the blacks accuse the whites of doing with KKK. Why become like what you hate?
No,
I have to say, what a question. I mean,
let's talk about that a little bit.
That is a great question, and it's most fitting for our next segment here in Inner City Talks. Listen, why become something you hate? Why become something you hate, folks? If you're tuning in, you're checking us out, throw it in the comment section here. Why become something you hate? If whites or blacks, excuse me, as Jesse Lee Peterson was saying to Matthew Knowles, the father of Beyonce Knowles and Solange Knowles, right? If you're accusing whites to separate the races during the movement of KKK, why do that with black power? Why become something you hate? I think that's a fair question. What's your answer, Savory?
Yeah. I think it's a very, very fair question. Why? Because it's a way of accountability. It's a way of challenging yourself to say, all right, they're doing this, but do we do the same? Is that response effective? Or do we do the same also, this is what's tricky, and not call it hatred, right? We do the same and not call it racism. We do the same and just give it a new name.
Great point.
Which is a great kind of big picture way to put it with Al Sharpton and these people we're going to talk about today is, think about it. They do the same thing, but they have a pass, right? So that's why that's a very challenging question to a lot of these leaders, because they're doing the same thing, but again, they have a pass because of how they look. So
I think the answer is in the question. What Jesse is alluding to is, if we are calling the other side out, the other side being white supremacists or KKK members or whatever the hell you want to ascribe them to be, then what? Being what they are or what we accuse them to be is going to level the playing field? Does that not continuously divide? It doesn't unite. But then talk outside their mouths and say, well, we need to do more uniting. Uniting on what? If you're going to simply just shove this down our throats and say this is acceptable, or we have even minorities saying there's no such things as racism towards white people.
yeah.
I mean, I think we're deviating from what is actually why become something you hate. And a lot of times you're not going to hear a lot of black people know how to answer that. A lot of Hispanics not know how to answer that.
Well, how dare you challenge that? How dare you challenge that?
Oh,
Right?
how
It's
dare
like,
you? How dare you?
because we're doing it for a different reason. We're doing it because we've actually been oppressed. We're doing it because it's almost like, hey, I see where you're going, Mantra, but we have the green light to do it, right? We justify hatred. It's a problem. It's a
That's
problem.
sad.
You can't justify hatred, man. So
All right, in our Keep It 100 segment, we do just that. We give it to you authentic. We're going to be two inner city guys here over a drink talking about what's really plaguing the inner city. And make no mistake, Al Sharpton is one of those plagues, I have to say. And I look, that could be my opinion, Savory. I don't know what your opinion I think this guy's the problem with the inner city because
Mm-hmm.
he does not help. He actually agitates and makes more problems for people like Savory and me. So I wanted to roll a video here of Al Sharpton. I think you're gonna really like this one, Savory. This video that I found of Mr. Al Sharpton and just his resistance to even admit he's wrong or his resistance to go against the narrative. It's like, I will not relent. I will not recant. I will stay
Mm-hmm.
this way. And this is what I mean, essentially. Let me roll that real quick.
My name is Tawana Brawley. All right. I'm not a liar and I'm not crazy.
It was 1987. Tawana Brawley was a 15-year-old who claimed she was raped by 6 white men in law enforcement, and Al Sharpton took up her cause. But there was no forensic evidence of any sexual attack, and there was evidence Tawana made up the whole story. The case, labeled a hoax, was dismissed, and Sharpton was forced to pay $65,000 to those he had named. But in all this time, he has never voiced any regret.
All right. So just to recap really quickly, Tawana Brawley case, early 90s. This was a huge case where Tawana Brawley went gone or went missing for a couple of days. And when she came back, she said to her parents, "This is why I went missing, because I was kidnapped. I was raped by 4 white men." And there was a lot of obvious outrage there. But what it turns out, she was actually out with her boyfriend. She staged the whole thing and she was trying to cover it up by doing this. This is why I say they don't help the inner city. They do this in actuality. And rather than to take a position of being an apologist,
Mm-hmm.
this is how Al Sharpton responds.
You have gone back and looked at things with such a clear eye. You've apologized, you've asked for forgiveness, except on Tawana Brawley. I don't get it.
I'll be honest with you. I have thought about that a million times. I just don't believe they treated that case fair.
If I knew that I had in any way contributed to falsely accusing someone, I think I would feel an obligation to say I'm sorry.
I think you...
And she brings up a great question here, Savory, and that question is false. If you were wrong or you falsely accuse someone, you're a black man and you know what it is about false accusations. They bring it up. They'll never let it go. They talk about the South. They talk about how they would falsely accuse of black men raping white women, right? Why play the game in reverse? Why do that? Why become something you hate or something you didn't agree with? Why do that?
Back to the initial question, why? Why respond like that? Yep. See how he
right.
phrased it.
I think the operative word is if you knew that. I don't know that.
If they didn't do
But
it,
but suppose they
you're
did.
taking the,
Suppose they did.
but they didn't. They didn't.
Suppose they did, right?
You can
Again,
play all the linguistics judo you want, but you can't avoid the fact that you were dead wrong.
But let me tell you why either way, all right? Suppose they did, suppose they didn't. Let me tell you why either way is wrong, because you jump on these things too early. Police shooting, crime. You jump on a convenient narrative too early. Too early.
Point.
So the problem is there, not that you backed her up, is how quick and suddenly you backed her up. And because of his history, we can assume is because it fit your race narrative. It fit your race hustling agenda. You see where the problem lies now? So even if we were proved to be right at the end, which obviously you weren't, and in most cases you're not, but even if you proved to be right, why did you get in so early without knowing the details,
or
the circumstances, the facts of what actually happened? So, yeah.
And this happens time and time again. Savory is bringing up no outlying. This is no outlier. This is not speculative. This happens often. When the George Floyd incident happened in 2020, right? People just flew off the handles. Mind you, Derek Chauvin was in custody. Derek Chauvin's being investigated. Derek Chauvin this, Derek Chauvin that. Or here's the other thing. They were still looking into the case. Why? Because they're trying to look at the factors. What could we prosecute this officer on? What could we bring in orderance of a subpoena? How do we look at now these other officers who were a part of the case? There's so much to consider before
Yeah.
taking this to trial. And when they did take it to trial, what happened? We had riots across the city. We had damaged property, people losing businesses, people on blaze, fire. People were saying, why is BLM doing this to my community when I am a
Yeah.
minority? These things don't make any sense. They're not helping their city. They just destroy. That's all they do.
Yeah. And you think about what's happening, it's they're holding their city hostage to their narrative, right? Which is why so few people challenge it, because you jump in and you say, I want the results in court, right? I
Right.
want him to be guilty, right? But you want him to be guilty based on the narrative that you're pushing without the evidence. So now when he's guilty, sometimes what happens, we've been in these moments in New York where the sentencing is just not enough, right? Or if he's not guilty because there was no evidence, you ignore the evidence and then you go out there and destroy businesses and do stuff in the name of injustice. But what injustice? Yeah, you see, so it's almost like they end up pushing their narrative regardless, and that's what's important to them.
That's right. I want to play more clips as we're going to continue to offer our dialogue here. But here's Al Sharpton through the years. 60 Minutes covered him once again on this topic. So let's go ahead and cover that.
We will stand up for our people.
Reverend Al, 20 years ago in New York.
No skinning and grinning. Pay for your deeds.
Hot-headed in his jogging suits, larger than life in every way, spreading hate and dividing the city.
No justice.
But take a look at Reverend Al
No
today
justice, no
after a meeting
peace.
with the president.
Wow.
I want you to pay attention here, Saber. There's some things that Mr. Al Sharpton starts to say over the course. We're not going to cover this entire clip, but we are going to cover some of the stuff that I thought were sticking points. So check this out.
83 pounds slimmer, stately in his tailored suits, commanding a national stage.
I think the meeting was very candid.
Not only does he travel to see the president travels to see him.
Barack Obama.
In April, Mr. Obama was a keynote speaker at Sharpton's civil rights organization, the National Action Network's fundraiser in New York.
Oh.
I told Reverend Al backstage, he's getting skinnier than me.
This presidential
Swag.
endorsement, this validation, is an acknowledgement of Al Sharpton's influence with the president's African-American base.
I am living testament.
The influence. That's all they care about. Influence.
That's it right there. We can summarize this. His influence is very, very strong. All right. It's not about what he did. It's not about what he wants to do. Influence to just rile up people who to what they do. So, for example, if you own an army of, let's say you go on your lives, right? If 100 people do what you say, then you have power if those 100 people are important. Don't matter what you say. I want you to say what's necessary, what's politically advantageous, right? So this is what he does, right? He's a political pawn to a lot of elites.
So the influence is to get the black vote.
Oh,
Never
yeah, for sure.
mind.
You got
Never
it.
mind what they
Simple
do.
terms, yep.
Never mind what they do for New York City.
Yeah,
Al
we'll talk
Sharpton's
about
never
that.
done. No, has he ever done anything for New York City?
Not
We'll
that I
see.
know of.
That change is possible.
I think that America and Al Sharpton has transformed. I think it's a different country, and I think that therefore...
Whoa. Did he say what I think he just said? America's a different country. Where are all the Ibermex Kindies, the Toshtonese coats? Where are you guys getting your information from? Because Al Sharpton, close shop. Al Sharpton said America's a new country. America's changed. But why are we talking more about race than we did? I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Still the
Check this
thing,
out.
man. To
Check
rile
this
up
out.
people.
I've become a different person in that context.
And we're a different country because we elected a black
I
president?
think we're a different country over a period of time. We started doing a lot of things that black CEOs of Fortune 500 companies.
okay.
I think America grew, and I grew.
Sharpton told us that
But
having
not,
a
but
black
again,
president is a challenge. If
so it grew, but
it
not
grew.
enough to let go of the narrative. It grew, but not enough to still spew lies. It grew, but not enough to lie to the people. It grew, but not enough because we still have systemic racism. You see the theme? So it
It,
grew, but it didn't really grow because we can't stop talking about what I've been talking about 10
which
years. If Al
means,
Sharpton stops
Avery,
race hustling, he's irrelevant. He's not going to stop it.
which means they hold this country hostage, folks. We are never
Good
going to
point.
progress, which is why Jason
Same.
Riley, that I posted on my TikTok, says what he says. Liberals have no interest in a post-racial world. Without a racial world, guess what? The money doesn't churn. The influence, the voting, the power, the shifting, it never churns, it never moves. Guys, it is a lucrative field, lucrative business, very influential, very influential. I mean, guys, we are in a vicious cycle. 1965, a Cambridge debate between William F. Buckley and James Baldwin. William F. Buckley said in 1965, you won't find a university in America. In 1965, he said this. You won't find a university that won't hail this man, that won't speak of this man. You won't find an area in America that won't talk about the concern, quote unquote, don't put this on me. This was William F. Buckley's words, the concern for the Negro. 1965, he said, you won't find an area in the country that doesn't have a concern for the Negro. Folks, they have been holding this. And when I mean they, I'm not talking about a demographic. I'm talking about the liberal ideology.
Yeah.
They
The
have been
structure of
holding.
elites and the liberal ideologies, like it's a card they will continue to play as long as it will continue to mobilize people to vote the way they want them and think the way they want them.
It's absurd. It's
Sad,
absurd.
it's
That's
sad,
why
yeah.
we don't really have to go that deep into this video. People like Al Sharpton don't help the inner city. They make it worse.
Yeah.
They make it worse because there are better people than him who have led coalitions. We Maj Tariq, we have Colin Noir, we have so many black men, women, and just like he also said, talking out of both sides of his mouth, we have black CEOs, we have people who are rich, filthy rich, who are doing a lot more than these agitators can ever do. But these agitators are paid to do this particular role, agitate. So I want to play this clip. It's a very good clip. I want to summarize this